Welcome to this short video about my EASTA internship in Colombia. This picture pretty much sums up my whole 3 months there. Sun, good vibes, and lovely people. But let's start with the country itself. As you probably know, Colombia is located in the north of the South American continent. With roughly 52 million inhabitants, Colombia is after Brazil the second most populated country in South America. In comparison, Colombia has more than 6 times as many inhabitants as Switzerland. And regarding area, Colombia is more than 26 times as big as Switzerland, which can be convincingly seen in this graphic. But enough numbers from now. Where in this huge country did I live? Well, I lived right in the middle. To be exact, in Tunja, a relaxed student town in the capital of the county Boyacá. This county is known as the Land of Freedom because it was the scene of the Battle of Boyacá, which led to Colombia's independence from Spain and is remembered by this bridge. Now, I want to tell you about the most interesting contrasts between Colombia and Switzerland. I had my first shock when I arrived in Bogota. Having stayed in Mexico before, I got on the plane in Cancun with short trousers and a t-shirt. My assumption that Bogota must be warmer than Cancun due to the closer distance to the equator proved to be terribly wrong when I got off the plane. The temperature in nocturnal Bogota was lower than 10 degrees, and after 3 months in warm Mexico, I learned how to shiver again. Well, a short internet search resolved my wrong assumption. Bogota is located about 2,600 meters above sea level. After this inconvenient start, I continued my journey with a bit more appropriate clothing, but I still was puzzled that Tunja is even colder. No wonder, with an altitude of 2,800 meters above sea level, it is only a bit lower than the famous Schlitthorn in Switzerland. This isn't the Schlitthorn, by the way, but I guess it looks something like that. However, during my first nights in Tunja, I was frozen to the bone, even with 4 blankets. This is not the outside, but the inside temperature in the morning, due to the lack of insulation and heating in most Colombian houses. Therefore, the room temperature virtually corresponds to the outside temperature, which, in the case of Tunja, isn't a lot. Apparently, nature is closely linked to climate. Therefore, I didn't feel like I left Switzerland when I hiked with my friends in the first week. The landscape we encountered showed incredible similarities to Switzerland, which is basically on the other side of the globe. Nevertheless, Colombia is the third most biodiverse country in the world, and I realized that when I traveled outside of Tunja. I admired the highest palm trees in the world, the amazing landscape of the coffee-growing region, and the highlands of Santander, for example. Now, I already spoke for 4 minutes and never mentioned work. You may justifiably ask yourself why I only travel in Colombia. Well, I travel a lot, but I did indeed work as well. My employer was the Santo Tomas University in Tunja, and I was super lucky to get a workplace and office with a marvelous view over the city, as you can see right here. The rest of the campus was lovely and offered plenty of possibilities to the sports. I helped a small research team to develop an automatic irrigation system to prevent freezing damage to crops. Fields on the hills around Tunja are exposed to freezing temperatures from December to February, which causes great damage to the crops. The system we developed should mitigate the damage by irrigating the fields during periods of negative temperatures. We also implemented a web interface, which allows users to monitor the farmland's conditions from the sofa at home in real time. My tasks included writing software for the deployed microcontroller, designing a printed circuit board to unite the microcontroller and further components on one board, and dimensioning solar cells and batteries to make the system energy self-sufficient. I experienced an extremely different working culture compared to Switzerland. The working environment was very relaxed, and my kind colleagues put sweets on the table almost every day, and sometimes I found myself in a conversation about the local fruits for hours. Well, let's jump again to the fun part of my stay. Most Colombian people are extremely friendly, helpful, and love to dance. Also, the parties in Colombia cannot be compared to the ones in Switzerland. When we were invited to a colleague's family event, for instance, I expected a relaxed dinner and thought of being home at midnight. Now, I don't need to tell you that this turned out to be completely wrong. Well, we ended up dancing in the living room until 4 a.m. in the morning. And here are some sequences of traditional dances we were shown in the coffee growing region. Enjoy.
Vamos, vamos. Vamos.
The food in Colombia is delicious. You didn't know you eat tacos in Colombia? Well, you don't. Except you're in a Mexican restaurant where I took this photo. But this is Colombian food for real, I promise. It is a traditional breakfast we received in a coffee growing region. I want to point out the arepa here, as this corn-based bread is part of most Colombian dishes. And apart from delicious arepas, I love the variety, flavor, and price of the local fruit. In Bogota, we tried out the chicha, which could be described as corn beer, but it doesn't taste anything like beer at all. Personally, I prefer the natural over the colored and flavored versions in the picture. This traditional beverage had ceremonial and ritual uses in pre-colonial times. Now, talking about Colombian drinks, I can't leave out coffee, of course. It is, after petroleum and coal, the third most important export good, regarding the legal exports, of course. This makes Colombia the fourth largest coffee exporter in 2020. Now I talked a lot, and I think it's your time to experience Colombia yourself. Enjoy.